Hello and welcome to the Island Podcast. I'm your typical host. Two guests are Tom Shields from the LA Current and Chad Clos from Energy Standard. Guys, hello and welcome, and thank you so much for making it to this podcast. To start things off, guys, where in the world are you right now, and how is your training looking? Are you training? Are you able to train?
Tom, you want to take it away, buddy?
Yeah, we're in Berkeley, California. We've been back in the facility since like maybe mid-August, early September. And before that, we were just kind of renting pools, sneaking in, not sneaking in, just doing what needs to be done. And I built a weight room out on my balcony. But right now, we're just using the facilities of Cal. And, that can be taken away at any moment. But as things start to roll out more with the new vaccine plan, we're hopeful that we're going to get to stay.
Mm-hmm. And the college team is also training alongside you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Chad, what about you?
Hey guys, what's up everyone? Thanks for being on the show. It's really cool. I think, for me, it's a little different. We've, when I came back off the ISL last year, I had hopes of traveling back to Turkey and traveling around and meeting up with the team. So, but in South Africa, the lockdown is, and the COVID is not so great. And kind of my hometown, Durban. I've been mixing it up really. I've got a couple of, I've made the best of the situation. We don't have access to too much long course facilities, so we've mainly been training short course and jumping around facilities like Monday, Wednesday, Friday one pool, and then like Tuesday night another pool. So we have like 4 different pools which we're traveling. Sometimes even like an hour there, an hour back. So it's been long days, but we're making it work. And I've actually got a really cool group with me at the moment. I got Ethan Sweeney. I got Matthew Sates from also up and coming youngster, and also got Ethan Dupree. He's also another turner fly boy who's actually staying with me now for the next couple of months leading up to nationals. So making it work and hustling in South Africa. So yeah.
Sure, thanks, Chad. When are your nationals?
We're not sure yet. So this is the well, they've given us the 7th of April. We're actually supposed to be racing next week. In like in a qualifier event next weekend, but we're not sure yet if that's happening. It's maybe stuff that you guys aren't used to in America, but yeah, it's quite normal for us to have things change last minute. So we're just kind of training for April, and hopefully we can have a nationals. I mean, they're looking at having a nationals in a city where, I actually love the city, but the pool is, we have a 50-meter pool, and the warm-up pool is 8 meters. It's a diving pool, so that's what they're looking at doing.
You typically swim faster in deeper pools, right?
No. I meant the warm-up pool is 8 meters long.
Oh, 8 meters long.
So 8 meters long. So yeah, sorry. Let me rephrase what I'm saying. So we have a 50-meter pool to race in, but the warm-up pool is like it's a diving pool, but it's a small diving pool. So it's deep. It's like I think it's 8 meters by like I don't even know. It's like 2 lanes. So there's no warm-up pool. So that's the logic of where we're at the moment. It's crazy what's going on here at this side. We have a 50-meter pool, which is about 30-40 minutes from our hometown here. And they have, 25-meter indoor and 50-meter, so that's where we usually have the nationals. But there's a lot of, I don't know, let's say corruption.
I guess just
so, a lot of politics, in South Africa, So we, at the moment, we're not sure what's happening.
Okay, makes sense. Wow, crazy times. And even when we talk about Olympics, probably no one knows if they're actually going to take place or not. It's quite crazy times. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the ISL season. But before I do this, I want to get the background. And guys, how was your training looking like after the news about the postponement of the Olympics came in spring 2020? And it seems like when both of you showed up to the ISL, you were both in shape, but that shape improved when it came to the final. And I just wanted to hear what was the preparation coming into the season. Chad, do you want to start?
Yeah, I know it was also a strange time for me because when we had our lockdown, we had no place to train. So I think it was March when I came back to South Africa. And I was lucky enough to stay at like a family friend's farmhouse, and they had a 20-meter pool. The problem was we were going into winter. So we had a few weeks of training there before it kind of shut down. And then I had 2 surgeries, which I kind of put off. So I kind of used the lockdown to my advantage. And I sat about 9-10 weeks. So I started training again, like waking up at 4 a.m. to like jump over the fence and like, the school pool opening the key for me. So I only started training properly probably around July. And then I only got back to Energy Standard with my team in September. I think it was 3 weeks before ISL. So I only started training properly, I'd like to say the end of August. I started doing double sessions at the end of August. And then I kind of, like you said, raced myself fit through the ISL season. So it was really amazing for me. I got my teammates back, my coaches back, and definitely felt better as each meet came along. That first meet, man, I mean, that was a strange feeling, to kind of have that first race and first racing in. And yeah, Tommy was flying, man. He was in good shape. And I think we both had a great final, so obviously it's always a pleasure racing my good buddy Tom. And he's a great racer. And yeah, it was awesome.
Thanks, Chad. And you mentioned that it's quite a big break you had, like 2-3 months, I'm assuming, with no real training, right? With the surgeries.
It was a long time. Yeah. Sorry,
I had a chat with Vlad Morozov recently, and he actually voluntarily decided to have like a 2-3 month break of swimming after he received the news of the postponement of the Olympics. And he said this was probably the best thing that's happened to his swimming career. He said it was a huge refreshment to him, both mentally and physically, and he felt a lot better in the water after that happened. Would you say the same thing happened for you? But probably for you, the experience was a little different because of the surgeries and stuff.
Yeah. It wasn't, it was kind of forced break for me because obviously I wasn't able to train, but also the surgeries kind of didn't help because I had keyhole surgery. So I couldn't really move. So even the first 4 weeks back, I was using a pool boy and I couldn't tumble turn. So it was kind of difficult, but you know what? I was just happy. I was refreshed, because 6-7 months away from your coach and your team, I don't think anyone's really done that, So when I got to see the team again, it was just such a boost of energy. I got 3 weeks of good training in, my first long course training in like 8 months, and obviously heading into ISL was man, I was so happy with the form I was in. I didn't expect to swim so fast, and especially in the end, to almost some best times, I was over the moon, and I think it just shows that, with a lot of racing and with having the ISL, I'm very grateful for that. I mean, and Tom were actually speaking about it during the series, like just to have this racing. I mean, it was such a blessing for us, just to kind of get that racing in, get that experience in, just sharpen up on the small things, and then again getting to train in the midweek, So sometimes I think we had like a 16, 17 day break between match 1 and 2. I got to smash some big training in there, so I actually got fitter as the weeks were going on, and obviously we got to rest for the final and have a shave down. So it was a lot easier for me. Not easier, but more efficient, I'd say, in the final for me. So yeah.
Thanks, Chad. Tom, how was your preparation coming into the ISL season 2020?
It was interesting. I think we got kicked out of. We were at Olympic Training Center during March 12th through 15th when everything kind of shut down, and we came home and trained for like a week singles, and then things were officially canceled, and then we took like not too much time like purely out of the water, but we were stuck in like hour a day environment from probably April till mid-July. It's hard for me to remember. And then, same kind of scenario, as I was saying, late August, we were back into, proper doubles, a real weight room. I mean, I did as best I could here. So this summer was pretty interesting, like you'd be surprised what you can do with an hour and a half a day in the water. And then I was lifting 4 or 5 times a week. And so I was kind of, riding the bike, doing everything I can that way. Doing, a lot of the Americans were very public about, how they were facing it. And, I was no different. That's exactly what I was doing. And I think it was pretty, surprising because I think a lot of people get stuck on like the typical training week or like worshiping this pattern that we've developed, which seems to be pretty similar across the board. You go to some community, they might do this. You go to another community, they might focus on this. But I've spent time in enough, different camps that it's surprisingly similar. I spent some time in Turkey with Energy Standard in particular. And, we're all mowing the same patch of grass is kind of the way I would put it. So this summer was pretty interesting for me because it kind of proves that I think we get too comfortable sometimes in what we think is like correct or whatever. And one of the things I appreciate about our coaching staff here is that they're very adaptable, and we just get to work with them. And I feel very blessed, and they did a lot of the hard parts of thinking through that. But a lot of what we did was just like 2 days hard, 1 day easy singles. It's like, wait, we're doing 6 practices this week, and we're taking instead of 9, and we're going to take a third of them and go easy. It's like that just doesn't make sense. But those 4 sessions are really hard. So I think, looking back, and obviously like, in a very results oriented way, like it was the best season of my life. So clearly we did something well. And then through the ISL, I think, that just further proves the theories that, everyone who swam at the World Cups has ever known. I think Vlad is a great name to mention, is that, I think a lot of people think that like, well, how do you guys stay in shape? When you go through the fall, and it's like, well, come and we'll show you. And that's kind of what the ISL is, right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, like I'm actually in better shape now. And like, I'm better for having done this. And a lot of like the other top end talent that wouldn't necessarily do the falls in the past is now kind of seeing that. Now I'm kind of, excited for what the future of the sport looks like as this continues to grow and we continue to see, that kind of championship focus hone in through a public racing atmosphere that we've been more or less comfortable with, but now that was like so honed in to like a whatever 48-day camp that we definitely like sharpened up along the way.
Thank you, Tom. And I think everyone during the quarantine who was a subscriber of your Instagram page was jealous of your setup.
I was super lucky. I mean, we haven't left this place because it's cheap and it has that huge balcony, and then we just kind of like, all right, well, weight room. So,
it makes total sense. I mean, I had a small setup on my balcony as well during quarantine, so I get it. Not as sophisticated though. You had like a whole 2-day story of how you were setting it up. I was a follower. Tom, by the way, do you by any chance recall the words told to you and to the team by Dave Durden when the news came out that the Olympics were getting postponed?
Well, I mean, we've kind of seen the writing on the wall, and I had connected with him individually more than like to the big group because we were at OTC. So I just kind of like called him. I was more of like, hey, what are we doing in the water tonight? Kind of call, like trying to get my head around like the day. And he's like, hey, like this is a little bit bigger than that. And I just hadn't really like put it together yet. Because when you're at 7,000 feet just training, you're so locked into that environment. But so I don't really know, he was with the guys, I wasn't. And a lot of what he said since then has kind of been, he likes his phrases. And so we haven't come this far to come this far. And, he is, the USA, team head coach too. And he feels a burden of responsibility to get some guys on the team to feel that he, I don't know, whatever. I'll let him explain that part, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, he wants to, bring along a good amount of us too, whether or not that be myself. And so that he says that all the time, and, we're a very group focused team. And so we're really getting behind that. And, as a lot of our older cohort was probably looking at being done, I feel like he's almost talking to us individually. And it's like, I was probably, I don't know, because now the ISL exists and I'm relatively good at it. But, I was probably looking at being done if that wasn't the case. And so it's been a weird year that way, right? And so he's been very supportive of like, us staying around and understanding of like a lot of the older guys' frustrations of being like, oh man, a whole nother year of this. And so he says that a lot.
Thanks, Tom. You guys definitely didn't go all that road to come that far. I reside with Dave there. But with that being said, let's dive into the season itself. And the first time you guys faced each other was straight from the get-go, match 1. And tell me about your feelings coming into match 1, both Tom and Chad, because you guys haven't raced for 8 months at that stage, if not more. Mm-hmm. Were you having the butterflies? Were you getting more nervous than usual?
Tommy, you want to go?
I mean, for me, I think like I get nervous to race. I don't know about like relative to other people, but I would say pretty big, like no matter what. And in a season such like that, I wanted to establish myself as like a part of that. Hey, Bert.
Hello, that's hello. Hello, yeah.
Hello, Tom. Nice
Hello,
to see
hello.
you, my brother.
How are you doing,
Much
Send
love.
Bert?
regards to your family, especially your wife. Hello.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, he doesn't.
Oh, no worries.
Are you kidding
No,
me?
it's all good.
He's been waiting a while to come say hello.
So I wanted to establish myself as like someone who could be there for the team. Because I mean, there's so many different things that come into a motivation behind swimming, right? And first and foremost, like of course I want to win and do well, but I want to be, a resource of like, oh, if this guy has speed, so we want to put him in spots where he's going to do well. So I can continue to have spots and do well, but also just so I can be there for my team and continue to have value that way. And so I was probably thinking a lot about that. And personally, like I have a pretty big chip on my shoulder because I've been kept off of USA swimming teams, twice now, Short Course Worlds 2010 and Short Course Worlds 2018. And so it's like, that was my first opportunity to be in the water with Chad and Caleb since ISL. And I still have a lot of like, I don't know, whatever. I guess a good way of putting it is like, because of that Jordan documentary, is a Jordan-esque sense of pettiness around USA swimming. So it's like, I want to establish myself. And so it's not like anything at 2 for or against Caleb or Chad, but more of just like, no, like I'm just trying to, reestablish that they know that I belong in this environment and just, continue to show that. So that's, day one, that's what was on my mind. So I just wanted to be with the group and show that I could put up.
And you definitely proved that. And wow, seems like you were coming into this a lot hungrier than I thought you would.
I mean, I was broke, so that helps.
Okay, that also makes sense. Chad, what about you coming into that first match, especially after the surgeries and everything? That must have been a pretty anxious couple of nights coming into that, right?
Absolutely. I think Tom was being very modest there, man. He wasn't great. He looked so great that first match, and all the way through ISL, man. He had such a great season, and I think that very first match, he was in lane 1. I knew, don't write off Tommy. He's in lane 1. He's coming for us, and I think me and Caleb were in 5 and 6, and then we had Rooney in 2, and I just remember off that first turn, I just saw Tom a body in bed. I was like, oh no, Tommy's back, baby, and then. He smashed us that one. I think it was like 0.7. It was like 49.2, and I was 49.9, and Caleb was 49.9.
49.5 from Tom on that first match.
49.5. Okay, 49.5. But I mean, still, it was a big win, and it was a great race. I think I was quite nervous. I'll be honest. I walked in there, and I didn't know. I had the mask on backstage. It was like the first time having the mask on, and then I didn't know what to do with my earphones, and then I had to walk out, and then I expected there to be a crowd, and there was no crowd, and I saw my teammates, and then I was on the block, and I was diving, and I was like, oh my goodness, dude, this is crazy. But I think that first match really got me in the groove, and it kind of shook off the nerves, so to speak. I was in great shape considering what happened. I mean, I was quite confident actually. I mean, I thought I was going to win that first match, if I'll be honest with you. I had to wait like 3 weeks for my first win on ISL, and that was great. It was great. And I think seeing how fast Tom was that first match, I think also definitely motivated me to get myself ready. And I just what was nice was we got to watch everyone. I think for me the cool part was having Tom and Caleb race on whatever Thursday, Friday, and then we were Saturday, Sunday, and vice versa. So we got to just see what everyone was doing, and it was just great to see how everyone was getting faster, man. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for 149 yet. That's for fly, and it's just guys are just smashing it. And then Eddie was coming onto the scene, and that was crazy. It was a weird. It was definitely a weird first week and a half for me, to get my bearings right. And no, it was great. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the process. I think Tom spoke about that. Kind of getting through each match and getting better. But I was just happy to be with the team again. Just to be in that environment. It was just fun. I mean, right, Tom? We had a lot of fun. We played some poker. I mean, you guys know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was hosting a poker match, Yeah.
Well, I think you've touched on it, like that environment, because we were all like not around each other, obviously, but you were in the same city, swimming through the same meets. So whether or not you race that day, like you're watching what that person's doing, or you're in tune, and You know, I don't think that's necessarily what happens, especially in these like years-long seasons. It's like, oh, this person swam fast at like this random meet, and you're like, okay, cool. Whereas like now, it's like, oh, well, I got to answer back tomorrow, and I think like, to your point, Chad, I think like that was what, like especially that, you know, those last 14 days or whatever. I feel like you answered that call. You know what I mean? I in the back of my head, I was like, okay, like. I had known, you know, a little bit of how your summer went. I was like, you know, it's just going to come to a time where it's like, you know, we're going to keep poking at this bear enough. He's going to wake up and swim really fast. And so it was like, it was cool to, you know, make the finals with LA and at least be there for that experience and go through the finals with you. And I mean, it was cool to see you work through that process as well.
Thanks, buddy, man. Yeah, you were great. I think, you know, to touch on that team element, and even though we were on different teams, I think it was great to just hang out with all the boys. You know, we had that poker group. We were rolling through every second day. You didn't join us for a couple of matches there. You only joined us for 1 or 2, but we still owe the game there, guys. I've improved my game a bit. You know what I mean?
We actually have a question from the fans from a mysterious name of Mateos asking Chad how much money he lost in poker during the bubble.
Stop. Hey, I won the last couple of games, man. So I think I was even. I think I was definitely even. Tom was coming in there aggressive in the early stages. I was just waiting, man. I'm just waiting for dropping that set.
Purely even. I only got second.
I was even.
Second place was like an agreed even. Yeah.
I think the one that won the most, I think Mateus won the most. I think Blake Peroni survived his weight. I don't know how, man. Tom, can we speak about Blake, dude? How did he win?
Blake plays that. He plays that high variance style, so he's going to be out first, or he's going to win.
Tight.
And I think that's a good way to play.
Super tight in the beginning. Yeah.
You don't get a nickname of Scrooge for nothing.
Yeah. No, it was good fun. I tell you what, guys. I love that experience because we were all there. You know, like Tom says, you know, we were all kind of passing in the hallway. We were playing a lot of poker. We were training hard. You know, we were racing hard, and like honestly. It's not much better than that for me. We're playing PlayStation. You know what I mean? There's very few things in life I enjoy more than that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I said. Like the last week
great.
There, I was like, I could do this and race once a week, especially if it was just purely like Friday, Saturday, and you get Sunday off. If the food was like, if I could go out and get different food or like make my own food, I could do that for like 25 weeks. You know what I mean? Like that would be pretty chill. So I don't know if everyone agrees with that, but that was a super awesome experience, and it was really cool to like have like a true season again. And I say again because I felt very similar to college, Ivan, as I'm sure you're familiar with, in that we don't really get that in professional swimming. You know, it's a little bit more of like you pick your own little schedules.
By the way, Tom, do you feel like you benefited a lot because of that college experience in the ISL setting?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a home for me. Like, I think that the way that I've approached training naturally kind of adapted myself to be good on like a 300 or whatever, or like, you know, multiple races in, where I'm almost better at that than I am at like the single one-offs. For whatever reason, I think that it's been hard for me to like slow myself down through aerobic training or you know, whatever it is that I do wrong that makes me that way. So yeah, I think that's just a better fit for me as an athlete or my mental space. You know, when I just have one swim that day, it's hard for me to like put all myself into it. So yeah, I think like for whatever reason, I am better at that. And it was definitely like my needs of college, you know, having 4 swims in a night at one of the nights at NCAAs and pretty much my entire career being revolved around that one night of swimming a year. Yeah, absolutely it did. But I mean, Chad's great at doubles and triples too from the World Cups. Like everyone kind of brought their own experience into, you know, what the ISL is. And I think there's a lot of guys like the Hunter Back, new world record holder, Clement. Like, you know, you can't say that he was unprepared. Like a guy could double, he could triple, you know, broke world record off the medley. You know, I'm not like alone in that, as I'm not trying to brag, obviously. It's just like, it's peculiar for me. It's like, I seem to outswim myself in that last 100 fly compared to my individual 100 fly. That's all I'm talking about.
Maybe there's something about Cal. Clement had a visit to Cal at some point, so maybe he got the vibe from it. Thanks, Tom. Chad, a question to you. in that first match, you and Tom, first of all, you swam pretty much the same events. It was the 100 fly, the 50 fly, the 2 fly, and the 100 freeze and relays. Tom managed to outtouch you by a couple of 100s in each of those events in the first match. How would you explain this? Do you think Tom was just a little bit more in shape, maybe more hungry to win these? And did you have sort of a, I don't know, there's something inside you after that that just wanted to get a win over Tom? Did you have that inside of you after that first match?
I think firstly, you know, Tom was exceptional. He deserved all those wins, you know. There was nothing from, I have no excuses when I race. Guys that know me, it doesn't matter what I did in the training to lead up. It's what happens on the day, you know. So there's no buts to being ISL champion or, you know, meet champion. I think, yeah, it was great. I mean, obviously I wanted to get one back at Tom. I think, you know, it was quite hectic to lose every time by 0.1, especially that 2 fly and that 100 fly and then the 50 fly. But I enjoyed it, you know. Honestly, I've said this before. I know people don't believe me, but like, I hate losing, you know, probably more than I love winning. But if anyone's going to beat me, I hope it's Tom, because I love this guy, man. My dad always says, you know, if I'm not in the race, we support Tom. So, you know, if anyone's going to beat me in the ISL, I'm happy it was him. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously I love everyone else, but like, you know, Tom's my boy. So, you know, it was a good competitive, you know, for sure, it lit a fire under my belly. But at the end of the day, we race as hard as we can race, and at the end of the day, we're still going to have dinner together, have a drink at the end of it. It doesn't change anything, right? Like whether he beat me in the final, you know, I was very, very fortunate in that last race to touch him by a couple of 100s. You know, like in my opinion, he swam an unbelievable race. His best, you know, one of his best 2 flies. So if he had got that touch, I still would have been happy with my time and my performance. You know, because I left it all out there. You know, and the same in the 100. You know, when Caleb broke my world record, obviously I wasn't happy with that, right? But like, what can you do? You know, I did my second best time I've ever done. He swam fantastic. You have to just take your hat off to those guys, you know. When Tom or Caleb or whoever beats you, just got to take your hat off and we go again, you know. It's never over till it's actually over. So we'll see what happens in the future. Of
course, thanks, Chad. And Tom, for you, I mean, in the final, the scenario was somewhat the same with the roles reversed almost. You did end up taking the victory in the 50 fly over Chad in the final, but the rest of the events went Chad's way. Would you say Chad was just a little bit more successful at gaining that peak shape towards the final? And another question to you, I know Chad specifically shaved for the final, right, Chad?
Yes.
Tom, did you shave for other matches also?
Yeah. So before you said that, I was going to say, I mean, I shaved for the first meet. So I think I just try not to think of it in terms of that, because and you know, Chad, thank you very much for being very sweet, and you always make me feel warm inside. And I do, you know, I love our relationship, and I do think of it distinct from other relationships I have with other swimmers, and I've appreciated your. You know, you were probably the first person who ever truly like accepted me into the international swimming community and looked at me as like someone who was like just good. Whereas, like, you know, in my home country, in my where I swim here or you know, around the world, I lack the same skill level or accolades long course, and people hold that against me, and you never have. And outside of the pool too, you've just been warm and so kind, and that's just, I needed to say that. But yeah, no, I shaved for that first meet, man. So like,
thanks, brother.
Whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I just, you know, I was on unemployment this summer, and so it's like this. I'm going to do everything I can, you know, to take home all I can take home. And I was pretty upfront about that. You know, I'm not like shaving my body and not shaving my face or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't hiding it. Which, if that's what you want to do, I'm not looking down on it. But I'm just saying, like. You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to gamify or like make myself look like anything. It was just like, this is money I don't have and I would like to have. Like, you know, that's what it was about. And I know it's like people start, you know, shaving up or as things start becoming more equal, you know, you always hope that you can realize those drops. And find other ways. And the way that I would always put it is like, if I'm going to try to get a performance or execute a goal that's results based, like winning and making money is, you can't focus on those solely, but I would rather shave to try to make that happen than rest. Because like if you shave and it doesn't happen, it's like, okay, well, I can come off the bike or I can come off weights or I can do this. Whereas like if you rest, it's like, well, I can shave and maybe I'll go faster. So I just kind of feel like the reverse order there has always worked for me. And not saying like I only know how I train, and the people very immediately around me kind of operate, right? Like you don't really truly know what anyone else is doing. So that's kind of how I've always like explained it. And yeah, I think like, that kind of proved itself over the course of the 6 weeks. And for whatever reason, I really like high level practice. And so like, trying to get those turns down and I think, I've had a very collaborative view of racing because of my time in the NC2As. I've noticed, my first 2 years, there was a guy who was much better than me in the 100 fly. He was at Stanford and people were watching us, and like a lot of people were talking about like who was going to win because it was like a thing, right? He ended up retiring, and heading into 2012, I started noticing like I wasn't good enough to anywhere be close to Phelps at that point, but people were watching us swim because of Michael. And so it's like, okay, well, the two takeaways that I learned from that are like, if it's close, swimmers watch, and if someone's famous or like successful, everyone watches. And so like those are the two things you're looking for if you're trying to create a product, right? And so one thing I feel very thankful for about my relationship with Chad is, if I think I've counted before, we've raced, somewhere in the terms of like 75 finals together in short course, and then one in Kazan and one in Rio, long course. My attendance is lacking at those meets, but he comes out on top, 65 out of 75 times. But I like to think that I've been able to keep it close enough for the relationship to be alive. And what I mean by that relationship is like a collaborative view of, in my opinion, just like you can do stuff like, I'll name names. I love Petey. I love what he does. But he's been super successful. But it's like, how much more exciting would it be if there was someone else pushing that limit and right there with them? And I'm not saying, I'm sure Petey would accept a race and would love that as well. And that's, that's the product, so if you get other swimmers to watch, it's like, well, if they're interested, then like, this is something that we can, like, this is actually, generally exciting. So I've always had that view of racing, right? And so, win or lose or whatever, it's like, if we can make like an actual show, and that's what, one thing that I feel, Chad and I have spoken many, many times, especially in our close. It always seems to be the 2 flies where there's a close, where the 100 flies, if they're close, I would agree those are just as exciting. But like, for example, the 2 fly that we had in ISL was like, finally on a stage where people noticed, and like people, especially in my home country who don't really watch the World Cups, got made comments about it. It's like, well, we do this all the time, so it was nice to have that platform, and I'm very thankful for it. But win, draw, lose is so secondary, because it's like, that's the person who makes the most, or gets the most accolades on that one day. And that's, of course, something that I want to strive to do as well. But the important thing is like the wealth of the sport, right? And so how you do that is you generate those storylines, or you generate those races multiple times, and you try and elevate your event above others, but like they should try and elevate their event above ours, and to draw the drama and the story and the hype, if you will. And so that's always been my view. And so, yeah, I think that like when I was younger, like you focus so hard on winning, but as I've gotten older, it's like, wait, like that's what we're trying to do here. I know I'm droning on and repeating myself, but like what we're really trying to do here is like have us all make money, and the next year make more, and the next year make more, and we grow the sport, right? Like that's how we all have the most success here. So I don't view it as like zero sum, as maybe some outside implications may look.
No, for sure. You need a dancing partner to both grow in a way, and to make it more entertaining to watch, and thus earn more money. That makes perfect sense. And by the way, talking about growing together, you guys might disagree with me upon this, and let me know if you do, but in my understanding, you guys come from very different parts of the spectrum when it comes to race mentality, race mentality in general. Tom, you take the more cold-hearted approach. You know every stroke you're going to take. You know the exact number of strokes you're going to take, the exact effort you're putting in. I know you experiment with this a lot, especially when it comes to the two fly. And Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're a little bit more of a passionate swimmer. You even like to sort of have a look at where everyone's at during the event itself. And it seems like when you take a look and you see someone ahead of you, there's like this huge burst of energy that comes out of, it seems like nowhere, and you're able to pull off the win. And I want to ask you guys, when you guys train together and when you spend so much time together in the bubble and racing against each other so much, do you pick parts of each other's approach here and there? Like, Chad, have you started maybe counting more strokes and sort of thinking about the strategy of your two fly a little bit more? Or Tom, did you sort of try to ramp yourself up a little bit more if you need it before a race? I don't know. If you guys understand what I'm talking about, you see where I'm going?
Yes.
Chad, do you want to start?
You say I must start?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I can. You know, from my side for sure, you definitely spot on there. I think. I don't know. I've never known how many strokes I've taken in any race. To be honest with you, I don't even count my 15 underwaters off the dive. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to say it. Like, I just guess it's. You know, we grew up differently, I guess. I mean, I just like to race. You know, it's not. You know, I try and win all my races that I swim, and you know, I race my opponents probably more than I should sometimes, you know, than I, you know, race myself. I've got better for sure, you know, swimming sometimes my own race, but like it always falls back on, I'm looking underwater, seeing where they are, like, you know, unless they're ahead of me, I know where everyone is all the time. So, yeah, I like a race. I enjoy it. You know, for me, that's the most important thing, you know, like, I don't know, for me, it's always, I don't know, kill or be killed. You know, I always say that before. So, I just I enjoy the knock, if you could say it like that. You know, I think looking back on my career, you know, most of my successful races have just come from when I've just not really thought about too much. You know, sometimes the races where I've thought too much about the tactic and the time. You know, if you give me a time to swim, I'm not doing it. If my coach tells me, Chad, I want you to swim 140 in the final, man, I'm probably going 150 points. Honestly, like I just have to. Like, you just got to race Tom, you know, go with him the first 100, try, hold on, and just try to get him at the, you know, like whatever. That's kind of how it is, you know. Sometimes you'll say go out a bit harder, but there's never any times related to what I do in any aspect. In training, it's different, obviously, because I have to practice, you know, my times and I know where I'm swimming and my aerobics and all that stuff. But when it comes down to racing, I'm just free, you know. That's just how it is.
Thanks, Chad. Wow. I kind of knew about this a little bit, but you opened my eyes a little bit more now on how you race. And it's actually the opposite side of the spectrum when it comes to Tom, I would say. Tom, do you want to pick it up from there? Because
yeah. This is every split and every time I went at the ISL this season. I wrote it down a couple of days ago, just to kind of get an idea of where I can you know, hedge time and maybe take a couple less kicks, couple less strokes. Yeah, I think our approaches are very different. I think that there's jealousy is not the right word. I think that I think that there's some respect for both ways. I think that I wish a little bit, I guess, that there was parts of me that could let go or be more performative or passionate, if you will. Whereas if I think too much about all that kind of stuff, I kind of swim down, and I think it kind of like overwhelms my emotional centers. So if I can just do process over performance and I think where we're similar is when Chad was talking about times. Like, I'm not trying to go a certain time, although in training, I'm like, what do I need to go in pace to go my goal time? And then try and make, you know, a certain kick count or stroke count, make that happen under, you know, tighter and tighter intervals. And then just try and replicate that feeling in the race. And for example, I think in my two flies, you know, one thing I'm looking at right now is like, specifically because of how the final went emotionally, you know, it's different when you look at the splits or you think about how we each approach the races. But I'm absolutely aware of how Chad and Daya and the other 149s, especially Laszlo, some of the faster ones, how they split it. And it's like, well, how come my third 50 and looks this way, or, you know, what happens on my seventh turn? And I don't know, like, that's just always how my, you know, attachment to the sport has been. Whereas if I don't have like a specific like thing that's going to go better this time, I won't usually drop time. I usually just repeat. And so that's just, you know, whatever, the way I swim. But yeah, so that's my approach, I guess. And it is very, very different, I would say, than my experience with Chad's, where I don't know if we really train all that different, though. Like I count every kick, count every stroke, but that's more like meditative, especially long course. Like it doesn't, I'm not like, oh, 20 or oh, 18, like this means. It's just like, I'm just kind of counting at that point. Whereas short course, like I think it you know, one way or the other, you're going to have to make a plan of how you're going to hit that wall. And so whether that's just like, I don't mean to speak for Chad, where he's just kind of like feeling his breakout and what that means, his approach to the wall looks like, or again, I think Chad has one of the best half stroke turns in the world, where he almost prefers to kind of be short into a wall. So if he's not perfectly matched up, it doesn't affect him as much as it may slow me down or burn my energy out, where I'm just not used to it. So a kick count, stroke count plan, for me, short course is super imperative, because I want to hit the wall at the right, like, to hit my turn, right? So that's just the reason I do it that way. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Chad. Yeah, thanks for shedding light on that. Another question, sort of from the same realm. There has been a certain somebody that has been beaten all the world records in 100 meters butterfly in the last 5 years.
Yeah, he's pretty fast.
I wanted to ask you, you guys have been in the butterfly game for a while now, and there's probably no better experts. Is Caleb Dressel doing anything different technique-wise when it comes to butterfly? Is he sort of a revolutionary, or is it just his shape and his overall anthropometry, his talent to swimming is just on par and on another level?
Simple answer, yes. All three or two of those things. But I mean, first and foremost, I think my dive sucks. Chad's is much better than mine, and Caleb is much, much better than mine. So for me, like, I kind of get stuck. I don't get stuck there, but I look at that and I'm like, oh, that would be sick to have. But outside of that, no, he's super fit. And, you know, we were pretty much all even coming off that last wall, and he killed us underwater. You know what I mean? That's the thing that I can speak for myself. That's something I pride myself on. I know that's something Chad prides himself on. It's like, we may not have the pure top end speed underwater, but on that 75 wall, like, we're the best, or I'm the best, or whatever that verbiage may be. And Caleb's the best, but far and away now. At least, you know, in November 2020 he was. And I'm not counting us out by any means. I'm not counting myself out. If I was counting myself out, I'd retire right now. But he's, you know, incredible, and it's an inspiration to watch. If I were to guess what he's doing differently, he has a really good energy conservation habits in certain parts of his swimming where he's not slowing down. That's what I'm looking at. That's where I'm looking to improve, outside of just like, general fitness and trying to get better. But if I was looking at, you know, not that swimming is a 1-for-1, and if I solve that, then, you know what I mean? Like, each person needs to do what's best for them. But that's a weakness of mine that he exposed by swimming next to him so many times. And it's a very interesting thing to think about. But that's a technique thing. And that's, if it's technique, it should be learnable. So that's my hope, at least.
Thanks, Tom. Chad, would you agree?
Absolutely. I think he touched on it all. I mean, I can't speak too much on the technical side because I have no idea what that all means. But I think, look, he's absolutely athletic. He jumps so high, man, like a basketball player, you know. His dive is obviously incredible. His turn, like Tom said, the last underwater, I mean, yeah, not happy about that. You know, Tom thinking you're going to come, and he smoked us in the last one. So, it's great for the sport. It's made me a lot hungrier. I mean, I can, again, speak for myself. I'm sure it's the same for Tom. I think, I held that world record for a long time, and, I'll be honest, I didn't expect him to break it in that final. I'll be very honest. I thought it would be a 48 low that wins it, out of the three of us. And, hats off to him. He was incredible. He was incredible that night. So, no, for me, it's, I mean, I look at everybody. I take inspiration from a lot of people. From Tom. When I trained with Tom, we did a couple of sets, and man, I remember the one set we did. It was like some 25s off the block underwater and some turns, and he beat me in every single one. I had to cheat to beat him. I had to go early. I remember we were going to take your marks, and Chad's going in the water there. So man, he was killing me on those underwaters, and I was watching how he does it, and I noticed how when he swims underwater, he's so easy, and he can just keep that same constant kick. And maybe sometimes, I think, in my opinion, Tom over the 200 fly, over the 8 turns, he's got the best underwater. He's better than me in Seto consistently, and on all the turns. Maybe the last one I'm a little bit faster, or the first one, or whatever. But his overall speed, I think, is incredible, and the distance that he goes. So, I learn a lot from everybody, and obviously Caleb is no different. He's extremely powerful and athletic, and I like to race. So it's not over. We'll see what happens next time we go again. So I look forward to the challenge with both Tom and Caleb, and I'm sure there's going to be another youngster coming through. And I think now I'm at the stage of my career where I still focus on my competitors, but I'm also focusing on improving myself, especially in training. Like Tom says, maybe not necessarily counting strokes or anything, but just trying to be more efficient in the parts that matter. And being faster, kind of in training. Even though I'm getting older, I still feel like I'm actually quite young in a weird way. So let's see what happens in the next couple of years.
Hey man, every I tell myself this every day. Most two flyers have had their lifetime performances in their 30s, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Where I know Phelps' world
For
record 2009 is technically his best time.
23, 24.
But I would say in 2015, when he was turning 30, and Bowman has said this, so I feel okay saying this, and he said this publicly as well. He looks as 2015 as Phelps' signature two fly, and the performance he's the most proud of, and he thinks that Phelps hit the best. And I would be hard pressed to say that I disagree. So it's not over. I'm turning 30 this year. I know you're turning 29. I think that especially in our events, like, and what I mean by our events is like we're 3 event flyers. Which is a rare breed by the year. But I do think, especially with the two fly or the longer flies, like it's an experience game, and it's something that I had to learn relatively slowly. And we're seeing that happen too with other guys who make the transition from yards to short course meters or learn the two fly long course, where it's like, well, if this takes like 4 or 5 years to learn, then like, shouldn't it take 4 or 5 more years to epitomize? And so that's, what I'm holding on to. I'm sure you're telling yourself the same things.
Of course.
I mean, watching the final, it's like, I know you've been faster, but watching both of us, it's like, okay, well, we both left 0.6 on the table, I would say. And so that's a record for you. And it would be if you weren't in the race for me, right? So that's just the same day. And so it's like, well, that's coming off a pandemic, that's coming off this. So it's like, okay, well then there's plenty more here. Like if you really break it down. And so that's what, I'm not leaving. Like that's
good, man.
And I'm glad to hear you have the same perspective.
No, mate, look, for me, that two fly, that was one of my best races ever. Like I'm talking ever, like London obviously being my best race. That for me, circumstance wise, like that win meant a lot to me, like obviously for the team and everything, but just like I think the way we both swam it, we both really went for it and we left it all out there. I mean, like that was as good as my world record, right? I mean, obviously Seto broke it. So look, I'm looking to get those back. It's not over. I think I have a healthy respect for my competitors. Make no mistake. Even Caleb's a great guy. We hung out a few times, and he's a really, really cool guy. And Daya also, he's one of the boys. We had a great time with Daya. And but we all gonna come meet again soon. And it's gonna hopefully be a different result. So we'll regardless of what happens, I'll keep coming back. I have the saying, you have to. There's only one man you have to fear, and that's a man that never gives up. So that's where I'm at. You're never really going to beat me because I'm going to keep coming back regardless of what happens. So, I train as hard as I can, and as long as my body allows me to go, you know what I mean? I'm going to keep going, right? So we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Chad. And Chad, yeah, I could tell you're very proud of that last 200 fly, because I remember having a conversation with you after the final, and then all of a sudden you go silent and you just freeze. I'm like, Chad, what happened? You're like, hold on, brother, there's just the 2 fly on the street right now. I gotta see it.
Yeah, it was amazing. No, it was great. I mean, like I said, of course, Tom had a great one, and like for me personally, that was a huge moment for me. And yeah, look, I think there's only big things coming forward for the both of us, and like I say, if I'm not in the race, my family's supporting Team Shields, you know what I mean? So yeah.
And yeah, not to overdo this part of this podcast, but one of the coolest things of the final was seeing you kind of come back to form, if that's okay to say, and saying like,
Absolutely.
okay, yeah, you know what I mean? It's like I was in the races every time, so it might not have been immediately expressed, but it's like walking back over and it's like, man, he smoked me, but he's still here. So like, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's awesome. And like, it's good to see that. And, and I've been in the sport long enough. And so have you. I have more friends not in the sport than in, they've retired or since moved on. And so it's like, yeah, like, okay, well, Chad's not quitting, so I can't quit. So like, I gotta come back and like, well, what if somebody's going 147? So
yeah,
why not me? You know what I mean? And so
for sure.
And I love that part of, racing you and trying to push that event forward as we, as we move forward. And yeah, I mean, Eddie and in the 100, Maxime, Marius, plenty of other younger guys that are going to graduate or come into the ISL. The 100 is going to be pretty packed here pretty soon, I think. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
For sure.
Guys, I wanted to take just a little bit of the remaining time and fantasize with you guys a little bit, do something fun.
Mm-hmm.
As spectators, we had a huge letdown this season. We didn't get to see the 50 fly skins show off between you guys. I wanted to fantasize a little bit. How would this go if in the end of the final, we have a 50 butterfly skins and it's Tom versus Chad? How is it going down?
Tell me you go.
Well, in a final, I mean, it's which one of us makes the final, right? Like, look, I'm a fighter. I believe in myself, but Cali Condors were in that final. And I don't know, like looking at Dressel's performances freestyle in 2019, it's hard to say that what could happen, and looking at his breaststrokes, he never faced a fly skins. They unfortunately never got to pick for him, and so he had to face breaststroke a lot. But are you asking like outside of Cali Condors? Okay. I don't know, man. That's a harder one because we were like hundreds. The only result we have, you know what I mean? Like, I think, what was it? I was 22 mid, 23-0, 23-2. Chad was 22 mid, 23-0, 23-3. You know what I mean? And that's difficult because I don't mean to be disrespectful to, we raced the same person from Tokyo, Nakamura, or I apologize, I forget.
Yeah.
The flyer. He just couldn't really put together a third 50 at the same level, even though I think he won the second 50 both times against me. And I don't know if he beat Chad on the second 50, but he did beat me. He went like 22-9, 22-8 against me on the second 50, which is incredible. And maybe he wants to think about resting a little bit. Because I'm just gonna be honest. I feel like we both beat him pretty handily on the third 50. So if we were against each other, it's hard to say what would happen because I don't think either of us really had the necessity of putting out really hard, and we were in a lot of pain already, right? So if that's okay to say out loud, but everyone knows it, it'd be a dogfight, and I have no idea what would happen.
Chad, would you agree?
Absolutely, man. Man, absolutely. You couldn't have said it better, Tommy. I think, man, I'll be honest with you. I told James, I begged James in the final to put the skins fly, just to see what would have happened. I know, obviously, breaststroke was the strategic one to do, but I've been asking for the whole week to put me in the fly skins just to see what happens. I mean, again, I'm not saying I would have won by any means. I think, you know what? If I had to have a pick, I would have picked Tom. If it was me and Tom, I had to pick him. He had a better 50 than me in the final, and he was faster than me through the legs. So you know what? If I had to really pick someone, I'd pick Tom by couple of 100s, but I think it would be a dogfight, and I'm obviously never quitting to the end. So, if Caleb was in there, which I'm sure he probably would have been, we'll see what happens. I'm sure we're going to have that race will come, right? That race will come for sure. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but you got magic hands, man. So I'm picking you.
Nah, man.
If we have to make picks.
If we have to make picks, man.
You guys are way too nice to each other. We need to introduce just a little bit of trash talk and
so
swimming.
can I
I think this attitude is like, okay, sorry, you can go first.
No, you go.
Okay, I think this attitude leads into like why I train hard, right? It's like I pick myself. I want to win, but like if I do sit down and think and like write out what I think what would happen in a fantasy skins and why my pick is Chad, it's two reasons. One, it's really nice on this podcast, right? It's also true. And the second reason, or third reason, if you will, is it's kind of selfish to pick Chad for me, right? Like, and what I mean by that is like, if I can put him ahead of me, or then that's carrot on a stick, right? And I'm going to go lift weights here in an hour and a half, and I'm going to be like, yeah, well, he probably would be. So you got to work hard, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. And I think that's kind of like part of that mental psychology, right? So that's why I think that most athletes kind of been that way, even privately.
Be a double-edged sword, though. At the same time, like it could be a defeater mindset. Chad's gonna be yeah, but not with you. I know. It makes sense. Thank you, guys. And I know you're busy athletes, and you have a meeting coming up.
I want to hear the story, though. Do we have time?
Now you want to hear the story. The quick story.
Guys. I interrupted you. I want a story.
So guys, the first time I meet Tommy, right? We were on the World Cups, 2012. We're hanging out a few times, and he knows it's coming, right? Again, we're there and whatever. I'm gonna skip forward ahead to the World Champs, right? In Istanbul, right? So we're there. Ryan Lochte, myself, Tommy, we all smashing it out for the gold, and I know it's going to be tough because me and Tom had some. He'd won a couple on the World Cups. I'd won a couple, and obviously Ryan Lochte is, he's a stud, especially short course. So anyway, coming in, and I was fortunate enough to get the win, close win. Tom was second. Lochte was third. We're in the press conference, right? The three of us are sitting up there, right?
I don't remember this. This is going to make me look really bad. I don't remember this. So they say, I don't think this happened.
Just stop. So we're sitting there. Right? And they go, Chad, tell us, how you feel. I'm like, amazing, world champion. Tears are coming down my eyes. There's my dad there in the crowd crying. They go, Ryan, tell us how you're feeling. Obviously, you're champion. Broke the world record, 100 I am. Yeah, really good, blah, blah, blah. Happy. Well done, Chad, well done, Tom. And then they say, Tom, this is an amazing result. First time winning on the world stage, get the silver medal. Amazing. How did you do it? He goes, well, I beat Ryan. And, I guess Chad beat me. And I was like, what did he just say? Dude? The whole room burst out laughing. My dad in the back there, we knew right away, like, dude, this guy's... And he came out and said, and I was like, Tommy, you can't say that, man. And he came out like that. And then at the medal ceremony, Tommy, can I do this, please?
Yeah, no, of course.
We love it.
Of course.
So we're there and we're sitting in the back there, dude. And we're sitting in the back and he's like, wait, did I just say the wrong thing? Because everyone laughed at me. And I was like, no, don't worry about that, bro, dude. We loved you for that, man. This guy is the honest guy. He would come up to me and he would tell me over the series of World Cups, he'll be like, man, I'm going to come there. We're going to do this 2-fly and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go at 50 point the first 100. So I think this guy's playing mind games, right? I swear to God.
No, I would go
50.8. He went at 50. I thought, is this guy crazy giving away his tactics to me? I'm thinking, this guy's super honest. Like, I thought he's coming in. He's like, yeah, man, I'm going to go out 50 point the first 100. I'm going to try to take it out the first, 75. And then you actually did it, dude. I was like, this guy, bro, the honest thief. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm just going to sit.
Honest thief. That's a good
anyway,
way to put it. No, so, okay, I don't remember that podcast that way, but I do remember, and I still do that to this day. It's like, if we're in a practice and I know if I'm going to like, a lot of guys get like, not hurt feelings, but like, hey, you're going too hard in this aerobic set, or you're doing this. Like, I'll kind of like announce what times I'm trying to go or what I'm trying to do. Just come on, like, let's chill out here. Like if I'm doing a prelims race and I'm going to take it out hard or you know what I mean? Or do something, a little bit against the grain. I want to let you know. Cause it's like, hey, like I'm going to go out 50 point here cause I'm trying something.
Yeah.
So don't go with me unless you really want to do that. I can see how that could be seen as tactics now.
I couldn't believe when I saw that, man. That was crazy.
Yeah, and
50 point.
I don't know if Lochte will ever see this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean any disrespect. I don't remember that part. I don't remember that.
I
think I was just excited to lose my. And I did not beat you that year at the World Cups, and you won that race by 0.7. So thank you for making it sound way closer than it was.
It wasn't 0.7. It wasn't 0.7. It was
you
like
went 48.8.
man. Don't worry.
You went 48.8, and I went 49.50. I know that. And Lochte was like 49.54. I like barely outtouched him, and you destroyed us. That was my first international medal. I remember it clear as day.
I wouldn't argue with Tom when it comes to numbers and swimming performances. It's all recorded up there somewhere. Yeah, that was an interesting story. And it sounds like, Tom, you have some selective memory. So
yes.
Some events have been erased. Okay.
Yes.
Guys, thank you so much. And before I let you go, there's a couple of fan questions I wanted you guys to answer, if you're fine with it.
Yeah.
One of the users wants to know, how do you guys deal with the nerves if you're incredibly nervous before a race, like maybe before that 100 fly in the first match? You guys were also in an unfortunate position because you were the first man to perform in the ISL bubble 2020 whatsoever. You guys kind of came there with blindfolders, not knowing what's going on. So it must have been extra nervous.
Tommy, you want to go?
Oh, yeah. I think for me, I stick to my, again, process over performance. We worked with Ken Revisa, who was a psychologist for the Cubs before his passing. You're good. And we really focused on that. And so, whenever I get nervous, I kind of catch myself thinking of like end result or what this means, or if this, then this, then this, if this, then this. And you kind of go down this stepped pattern. And it's like, okay, well, no, let's not, solve all the problems right now. Let's solve right now's problem right now, and just take a few breaths and slow myself down. And like, well, what do I really got to do? It's like, well, I got to go put on my suit, and then I got to walk slowly over there. And then I got to like say hi to Chad and get Maxime going, say hi to Caleb. And then even that's kind of getting ahead of myself. So let's just go put on my suit. And then, first things first. And so that's kind of how I approach my day ofs and that's how I approach my day to day. So I try and do those two things the same.
Thanks, Tom. Chad?
No, absolutely. I think, he's right on what he says. It's in the same respect, maybe not in so much detail, but I do just focus on like before a race, not necessarily the times, like I said, but just the race itself. And if it's a 200, in terms of percentages, 85% the first 50, 88 the second, maybe 60 the third. You know what I mean? But I just kind of focus on what needs to be done, and I don't really worry about other stuff because I can't really control other stuff, So yeah, usually my phone's pretty much off, the week of a big final, and I'm always actually nervous, to be honest with you. Like before every major final, I don't think I've ever not been nervous. I mean, I don't know. That's just I'm for sure there's a little bit of butterflies in my stomach. I mean, it's not necessarily too much nerves or like fear. It's more like excited about what's about to happen, And I just enjoy racing. To be honest with you, I just enjoy racing. Tom, Caleb, Eddie, Maxime, I don't know. I just like the big races, the big moments. For me, that's what really gets me excited, And obviously, I think being the captain of Energy Standard, it's a huge honor, like I've said before, and I think kind of not representing my teammates and my team and my coaches, but just having that extra 1% responsibility plays into effect. It gives me an extra kicker when I'm standing on the block, if that makes any kind of sense, So
it makes perfect sense.
It feels good to represent my team and just to just be a part of that, And I'm sure, Tom spoke about that earlier, being a role model and being a, like he's been in the game for a while, and he's told me before, he feels that sense of, leadership, when he walks out there, because he's a leader, and so am I, and I think it kind of just it's a good feeling. I don't know, walking out for that big final, man. I don't know, it's a good feeling walking out there, especially when there's a crowd, of course. But even for ISL, I put my music really loud, walking out there, pretending there's a big crowd, waving at my teammates in the stands, like it's a cool feeling, you're just like, you know what I mean, ready to go.
Thanks, Chad. But there must have been at least one race where you got too excited, too nervous, too pumped up, right? Any advice on how to deal with that?
Yeah, for sure. No, it happens often, man. Like, especially when I'm doing a 50, I get too excited. I try too hard, Dude, it literally, I don't know what happens. I get to the 50, so I swam like 22.8 to the 50 that night, and then I had a relay or something 200 fly, then 50 fly, and 22.9 or something stupid, and then I go the skins the same, like 40 minutes later, and I'm like, dude, I've just run 22 now. I'm probably not going to make it out the first round. You know, I'm like, teammates watching, they've given me the skins for me to try and hopefully win it. You know, and I'm just like, I get on the block and I'm like, well, I've gone 22-9. I mean, it is what it is. We're just going to have a knock here. You know what I mean? We're just going to race the race. And I go 22-5 or something, 22-4, my best time. I'm just like, well, I don't understand how that happened. I almost tried, not less hard, but I raced the race and I didn't focus on too much on the getting everything right. And you know what I mean? I was like, I don't know.
50.
It's
that's
weird.
I
hate it.
It's
like
I'm
50.
so frustrated with the 50 in general. But like I'm almost to the point now where it's like if I go up and don't care about the 50 in particular, I'll go better. Where if I go up and like, oh, I'm gonna like rip the block off and like try really hard, and it's like 22-7.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know.
Dude, sometimes I go out harder in the 100, man. Yeah. Sometimes we go out harder in the 100.
Yes.
I think we were at 22-5 or 22-6 in the 100, and I went
same
time in the 50. I'm like, I don't understand.
No, in the final, I went the same time out and in the 50.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Like,
it's crazy.
There's a reason to why the track and field sprint athletes try to relax their face when they're racing, right? Mm-hmm. It's for them to try not to tense up too much, and I feel like the same is true for a 50 of any stroke in swimming. Yeah. People tend to over tense quite a bit sometimes.
I think, dude, I think this year has proved it. I really loved the jackpot system, and one of the things that was really important with that is that we see, hey, 50s are really hard. Like a lot of these super big jackpots are in these tiny little races that people don't respect, like where I'm from, like the 50 fly, 50 breast. People are like, well, anyone can do that. And it's like, well, no, practically no one can. Like that's the reality. And I really appreciated that this year the 50 guys got, specifically of stroke, but 50s in general just got massive respect. And it was cool to see.
Yeah, just have a look at Nicolas Santos, man.
Santos, Sabo, like it's like I can't do that.
Sure, thank you, guys. Just one more question from the fans, and I'll start letting you guys go. One of our users, Kayla, wants to know, what is your meal plan, sort of thing, before a race day, a heavy race day? What do you eat? Because a bunch of young swimmers either overeat, either they undereat, and what is the ideal meal for you before a heavy race day? Tom, you want to start?
Yeah, this has been a huge struggle for me in my career. I still think to this day the two hardest things about meets are eating and sleeping. Like the stretching out, the racing, the recovery, like those are known variables, and you've focused on those since you were 12. And then as you get older, or I can only speak for myself, I guess. As I got older, I started realizing like I'm not doing any of this other stuff. So I would throw up like well into my 20s because I overate at meets or like had way too much water, or like, you know what I mean? These little things that should be easy to get. So I try to be pretty principled in my approach, and I don't count calories or grams as much as I used to. But one year I established like, what is a racing day? Prelims, finals, and then just a finals or an ISL day. What's that actually look like? And, I'm fortunate to work with a company, Fitargo. I don't have any of their stuff around me right now to show you a logo, but it's a carb drink. So I drink that during the meet, and I try to keep, and we had different start times, and around the world, you have different food options, and different local organizing committees will give you different lunch hours, so you kind of have to deal with all that. So sometimes you're just eating bars. But, rice, chicken would be my go-to, especially pre-meet. If we're racing at a noon, let's say in the ISL, then I'm pretty much only eating breakfast. But if we're racing at a 1 or a 2, then I will eat lunch. I don't know why that's the case. It's only an hour difference. But it's just kind of like do what makes sense and have a plan and kind of do the bean counting, in my opinion, at a meet you don't care about. You know what I mean? Like take a 3-day meet or college dual meet or whatever you have on hand and don't even worry about the swimming and just do food that day. And then, fold that into your plan. That's at least how it worked for me.
Thanks, Tom. Chad, what about you? Would you agree with Tom? What is your ideal meal
that's
plan before a race?
That's really interesting, man. For me, you know what? I kind of try not to rely on anything too specific. So I hate to rely on anything, like at any meet, because coming from South Africa, sometimes we don't have physios, at world champs and stuff like that. So I don't like to rely on anything. I like to just rely on like whatever's available, So I mean, obviously, like Tom said, I definitely I like a lot of rice, chicken. I eat a lot of steak, coming from South Africa. So like I'm used to all of that. I mean, I generally don't overeat in racing. I'm not generally that hungry, if that makes any kind of sense. We've got a nutritionist that helps us out, with energy standards. So we definitely, I've definitely learned a lot from him, and he's helped me out a lot. I actually found out recently I'm actually I'm wheat intolerant, and allergic, and I'm nut allergy, not intolerant to nuts, whatever. And I was eating a lot of that in the past, and I found that out just before ISL. So I was kind of just focusing on eating a lot of rice, a lot of the pork, whatever the meat was available, vegetables, and yeah, I feel quite good. I guess I have a little whatever, like a little energy bar or something like that. Half a banana before, a coffee before. I mean, nothing too. I mean, I kind of just go off what I feel like I need. I don't really, specifically think too hard on it. Like if I am starving, I'll have whatever, right? But like if I'm generally, I think when I have a coffee an hour before, whatever, I'm feeling pretty ready to go. Like generally not so hungry. I don't know.
Dude,
I'm not the right guy to ask, I guess.
Absolutely. That just brings home like something that I've been thinking about for a few years is you see these athletes try and do all of these high level fixes when, it's like, well, what are you actually allergic to? And like, how does that affect your performance? Or like these real little things that are really easy that are massively helpful. Like, and Chad's, 28 and figuring that out. And I think that in athletics, like if we can look at the next frontier, I hear a lot of that talk at like user swimming, like what's the next big push? And it's like, dude, we haven't even fixed, you know what I mean? Like this is stuff that like, medalists get wrong in our country, around the world. Like this is really easy. Like I'm pretty notoriously famous for having really, really bad two flies in season, especially in the Midwest. And it's allergies. And it took me until I was almost 30 to figure it out. So it's like, I got on some like, you know what I mean? I'm not like on something crazy. I'm on like Allegra, and it's like, oh, this is going way better now. It's like, so these real little things, and like not like minute details, so like simple fixes, and that's just such a perfect example. And obviously, it's good to hear that you're figuring that out, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I think you guys are saying very wise things in a way because number one, everyone's different. You got to experiment with your own diet. Tom, I think you're absolutely right. You have to dedicate one meal to just play around to see how you feel with different kind of stuff, because no one's going to tell you what's best for you until you actually try it. And yeah, I also agree about the fact that there's so many major things actually that we haven't even tapped into in swimming. I mean, allergies and so on is one thing. Sports psychology isn't even that spoken about. Man, there's just so much. I'm not even talking about technique developments. I'm a big supporter of freestyle hands butterfly kick for the future. There's just so much more to come in swimming. I totally agree. And sometimes people focus on these very micro adjustments and put so much effort into changing very little things that don't get them too far. Maybe you should look at it a little broader in a way.
Dude, you're so right. Like when you watch a really, 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 really good 100 freestyler come into the wall, it's like, why isn't he dolphin kicking? Like, have you, I've had that thought before. Yeah.
People have done that before. Have a look at Mike Klim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But hey,
that's
guys,
interesting though. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I have just about 1,000,001 questions that I still want to ask you guys, but unfortunately we're running out of time.
Yeah.
With that being said, this was Tom Shields and Chad Clos, our first Rivals podcast. And thank you so much for joining us, Chad, Tom. For everyone watching, our next podcast will happen this Friday, an athlete podcast. And this Sunday will be the last match analysis, the match analysis of the final. You guys are bound to come in and check this out. But anyway, for everyone watching, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next podcast.